it could be a rough few weeks for NFL head coaches because the seats are heating up. You've got Doug Marrone, you have Dan Quinn, you have Matt Patricia. Of course, the clubhouse leader and the most talked about member of that field is Jason Garrett. But the Clapper did not have a game on Sunday, so nothing could have changed for him, right? Wrong. He may not have had a game, but Jerry Jones had his radio program on Tuesday, and Jones did his very best to put out that Garrett fire by dumping barrels of gasoline all over the flames. First off, I've got no idea whatsoever what this guy's talking about with the first two sentences of that quote. Jerry said, quote, "Nobody has the exclusive skills to get the job done so that collectively you can win a Super Bowl," end quote. The hell does that even mean? The hell does anything this guy says at this point even mean? That sounds like something that somebody would say when they're trying to sound really smart, but actually have no idea what they're talking about. The hell does Jerry Jones even know about winning a Super Bowl anyway? Jimmy Johnson won him the ones that he has. And then when Johnson got all the credit and Jones got none, he ran his coach off. And he hasn't got anywhere near sniffing the Lombardi ever since then. So what does Jones know about winning the Super Bowl, or who's qualified to do it or not? Still, he insists that Jason Garrett is one of the people who is qualified to win a Lombardi trophy. Debatable. In fact, most Cowboy fans would tell you there actually is no debate. Plenty would pose the question, exactly what does Garrett do that sets him apart from any other head coach? Exactly what is this guy really good at besides clapping? And that's not me talking junk about Red. I mean that it's a serious question. Where does this guy excel? What is this guy known for? What is Garrett's process? What kind of a culture has he created there? Exactly what does this guy do other than clap? I literally have no idea. Jerry Jones, though, must. He's kept this guy around for a decade, and he insists that Garrett is one of the chosen few. Quote, "In my opinion, Jason Garrett will be coaching in the NFL next year." End quote. That's got to be pretty reassuring, huh, Red? Your contract is up. Your team is underachieving again, but it's all good because the owner just said you will be coaching in the NFL next year. Just maybe not here, and maybe not as a head coach. Like that was the sound of Jera cranking the thermostat in the coach's office to about 1,000 degrees. Still, Jera is doing what Jera does best, talking out of both sides of his mouth. So, bottom line this for me, Jera, I'm confused. Is Garrett your man or not? He knows this team better than anybody. Generally, the vote of confidence is the kiss of death, but that's not even that. The best thing that guy can say about his coach is he knows the team better than anybody. Like, yeah, I'll tell you what, Jason Garrett, he knows everybody by name. He can identify every single player on the team. He's great at that. He knows their names. He knows their wives' names. He even knows some of their kids' names. Like, I know Jerry meant that as a compliment, but it sounds like he's talking about a diehard fan of the team and not his head coach. And if the best that Jones can say about Garrett, if that's it, then he's as good as gone. Winning the sorry NFC East is not going to be enough to save Garrett. Neither will making it to the postseason and advancing. Says right here, Jason Garrett's going to have to make a deep, deep run in the postseason, maybe even a Super Bowl run to save his gig. And looking at him and looking at them, that's just not happening. But clap them up, Red. And just know, nobody could ever take that fiery lettuce from you. So you've got that going for you, which is something, I guess. And Jason Garrett was not the only one feeling the heat yesterday. While everybody has been focused on Garrett, Pat Shurmur has quietly been putting together a truly hideous run with the Giants. They're 2-10 this year. They're 2-13 in their last 15. They've lost 8 straight. It has gotten so bad, it makes Ben McAdoo and his comically oversized suit and window breakers and greased back lettuce look like Bill Parcells. The B-Man was 13-15 when he was canned, and he had a playoff appearance on his resume. Shurmur doesn't have any of that. And yet he's so desperate to make chicken bleep seem like chicken salad that he was hyping Daniel Jones for throwing INTs instead of fumbling. So yesterday, Giants co-owner Steve Tisch was asked by Bruce Beck of WNBC if he and John Mara had confidence in Shurmur and GM Dave Gettleman. He said, quote, "Those decisions and conversations are not going to be made this morning. It's really at the end of the season that John and I are going to sit down and talk about these issues," end quote. So maybe that puts Shurmur into the lead in the race that nobody wants to win. Or at least he was, until Carolina's David Tepper stepped in and took action. And that action was firing Ron Rivera. Uh-oh. I mean, I know there had been rumblings, but even then, that's still pretty shocking. Because unlike Garrett and Shurmur, Rivera actually has had success. Rivera had a long run in Carolina. Riverboat Ron was a legend there. He led Carolina to the playoffs 4 times. He led them to an NFC title. And he's going on this year without his franchise quarterback. I think that's pretty much universally loved and respected. Except remember, Tepper had told reporters 2 weeks back he was not interested in long-term mediocrity. And then that was followed up by losses to New Orleans and Washington. So I'm not going to say that Rivera deserved to be fired or deserved better treatment than this, but if the guy in charge says he's not interested in long-term mediocrity, and then your team loses to Washington, an organization so terrible that long-term mediocrity would be an improvement, then you know something's going to go down. And they're not going to wait until the end of the season, and they didn't. Tepper was running out of patience, and watching his team take a 14-0 lead over Washington, only to allow 29 unanswered points, is the kind of thing that's going to test your patience. The kind of thing that's going to get a head coach whacked, even one as good as Ron Rivera. So where does that leave us? Unlike Jerry Jones, Tepper is going to take action. He knows what he wants in a head coach. He knows who's probably going to be available, and he wanted to get out in front of it and start having those conversations and not have them while Rivera was still in the building twisting. He said, quote, "I have great regard for Ron Rivera. He is one of the finest guys in the game, period. That's not bull bleep. That's just the way it is," end quote. All right, then. So he's going to get a head start on looking for the next coach. Then again, a head start on what? Who's he going to talk to? Guys who aren't employed by NFL teams, which means college coaches and former NFL coaches. Some of the NFL coaches without gigs are not exactly the most inspiring candidates. In other words, nobody wants to get a head start trying to bag Jay Gruden, right? Tepper didn't just fire Ron Rivera so he can get the first crack at Rex Ryan, right? I mean, I'm not exactly sure what's in Tepper's head. I just know that hiring Ryan isn't. Then again, this is about taking action and getting started. If you're going to do something eventually, you may as well do it immediately. And when you take that approach, there've got to be a lot of head coaches who are still employed right now that are going to be nervous. So that carousel has already started to spin.